shot the entire wedding on an 85 millimeter cinema lens.
Oh, wow.
So it was all manual focus, and he nailed every shot. Because I asked him, I was like, hey, what's the best lens you're good at? He said 85 millimeter. I was like, use that. He was like, for everything all day. And he did it, and it looked good.
Dang.
So, yeah.
That is a nightmare situation, though.
Yeah, but it turned into a dream a year later, so it's okay.
Yeah, wow. Whew. Man, yeah, that makes mine seem kind of like insignificant. I have a couple like horror stories, just like and this is another reason why I don't do weddings anymore, like DJ weddings, is the bride and the groom got me their music that they wanted me to play the night before the wedding. I had no time to prep. It not only was it the night before, it was like midnight, and I had to leave the house at like 6 a.m. And so I got their email, and they're just like, hey, we know we're last minute, so we took the liberty of sending you the MP3 files too. And I'm like, okay, well, that's helpful. I don't have to spend a couple hours getting all the music. And so I download the zip file, and I put it on my computer, and I go to sleep because otherwise I would have not woken up the next morning. And when I get there, I import the songs and I throw them in, and it was the song that the bride was walking down the aisle in cuts out after 15 seconds. No audio. So the bride is walking down the aisle to nothing, to complete silence. And that was not my fault. It was the MP3 that they sent me.
What did they give you, like a TikTok file?
Yeah,
like a 15-second max.
And so, but everyone's turning around and looking at me like, what did you do? Because it's always the DJ's fault, no matter what. And I'm just like, I can't do anything right now. So out of an abundance of stress and freaking out, almost having like a panic attack like there, I play the next song, which wasn't their preferred song, but it was kind of like, if something goes wrong, you can play this song. And I'm like, okay. So I load up that next track and I play it. And it's playing, and I'm like, okay, good. It was like maybe like 4 or 5 seconds of silence, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when the bride is walking down the aisle and everyone's paying attention, that's a long freaking time.
Yeah.
So, but out of the insane amount of stress and anxiety I had at that moment, I didn't hit pause on the other deck. And then the audio from the other song came back on and started playing over the track. So it was just a distorted mess. And then I was able to and I like paused that track, and then it was fine. But holy crap, that was like 15-20 seconds of just sheer torture, like messed up. And you can always tell when like the parents of the bride and groom are pissed off, because they're not going to show you unless they're like real jerks. But if they're nice people, they're not going to show you they're pissed off. But what they'll do is they'll come by and be like, well, at least they're married. That's what counts. And really, they're saying like, you messed up. We're going to remember that forever. But the craziest thing is that it was someone at that wedding who was involved in the wedding. Then that was the only time they ever saw me DJ a wedding. And it was that wedding. And they ended up calling me to do another wedding. How? I don't know. I seriously, I don't know. But they wanted me to do another wedding. And I'm like, I mean, okay, I'll do it. You're like a friend of mine. But like, your only reference to how I do weddings was that one time where everything went bad. Like, I'm just surprised. And their wedding went perfect. That next wedding, it went perfect. Everything was smooth. Um, like everything was flawless. Everything went great. The only thing is like there's a everywhere from people who were like 18 years old up to like 80-year-olds there, and so the type of music kind of varied all over the place for what type of music was being played. And whenever that happens, you always have a portion of the crowd who's just not happy with the music selection because you're kind of you don't want to cater to just one crowd. You want to like play a little bit of everything that everyone likes so everyone gets a chance to have fun. But then if you do that, you're always in a position to where a group of people's not going to like what you're playing. So I dealt with that, but other than that, the whole wedding went great. I had to.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like you got to play at least a cha-cha slide at 1 or number 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's like that. That's just like a thing, man. I can't. I hate that. I hate that so much. It's they either play cha-cha slide or somebody or just or like a, I don't know, maybe anything like Bruno Mars. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Bruno Mars's music, but when you hear it at a wedding and like you're in the middle of like wedding season and you're like me, you're doing weddings like all like for like a span of time, you go crazy, man.
Let me
like,
tell you, I thank God for Bruno Mars, because if I'm ever DJing a wedding, all I have to do is get every song he's made, and whenever there's a lull, I just throw on a Bruno Mars song and pumps it right back up.
I know,
he
right?
is a gift to wedding DJs, I swear.
Yeah, it's like, oh, perfect. I'm just gonna put on 24 karat magic now.
Yep.
Boom.
Everyone's happy.
Energy back.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, but I can completely see how you're tired of Bruno Mars and all that, because yeah, there's so much Bruno Mars played at every single wedding. I don't do many weddings, and so I don't. But let me tell you, when I used to DJ once a week at a bar with a pre-approved playlist, I don't think I listened to music much at all in that point. Like on my own, I was just like tired of music.
Yeah, see, I know what you mean, because with anything you do in life, you just get comfortable or you get insensitive to it, right? So, like, for example, let's just say an extreme example, you started DJing like the hottest strip club in town, right? Whatever. And then you're like, oh, cool, a lot of beautiful women everywhere, a lot of loud music, a lot of drinks going, a lot of cool lights. After like 2 or 3 months, you're like, you're not even gonna it's like you're not even gonna affect you anymore, right? So so just kind of like me, like the more weddings I work, the more I understand how much of a social construct weddings are. So I'm just like, whoa,
Wait, don't you have a serious girlfriend?
Oh yeah. But you know what I mean. So but but here's the thing. It's like, wait a minute. So you're throwing a bouquet, you're tossing a garter, you're doing a grand entrance, you're cutting the cake, and you're feeding each other for a tax cut? Why don't can I just take the tax cut or whatever? It's an interesting
I apologize
tradition.
to your significant other.
No, but you know what I mean, though. It's just
No,
it's a weird thing that humans created,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's with anything, right? Like, why do I think cars are so cool? I stayed up until 3 a.m. looking at used Toyota Tacomas, and I was like, it's a car, right?
Yeah, that's not a car. That's a truck.
It's a truck. That's right.
But that is one of my favorite types of trucks. They're amazing.
Dude, that is like my dream truck. That's why I asked you at the beginning of this episode, what is the difference between doing 4 high and 4 low? So from what I understand, it's not good to be on 4 low on hard pavement.
Oh, you don't want to be on really any type of 4-wheel drive on hard pavement, but especially 4 low. You will mess up your whole drivetrain if you do that. Back when I used to have a truck, what I used to do, my truck was really fast. I did a lot of modifications to it, and it was like it was really quick, but it had a 4-inch lift with these big 33-inch tires. I used to throw it when I would pull up next to a sports car. I used to throw it in 4-wheel drive high at a red light, and I would just gun it, and it basically was an all-wheel drive lifted truck at that point, and it just took off. And I used to like leave people in the dust, but it's definitely not good for your car at all. And especially
Mhm.
if you're in 4 low, you'll feel it like starting to like break things as soon as you get on pavement. I only did that one time in my Jeep, and it was actually before I even put the lift kit on it. Um, but I went up to Mount Hamilton because there's snow up there. This was a couple winters ago, and or maybe it was last winter. No, I think it was a couple winters ago. And I parked on the side of the road so I could get some cool pictures and stuff. And then as I was leaving, I parked on ice, and it was two wheel. I had it in 2-wheel drive, and I wasn't going anywhere. So I put it in 4 low and kind of just crawled out. And then I left it in until I was completely out of the ice, and I hit pavement, and then it was just like, and I'm like, oh, that's really bad. I should not do that.
Mm.
But yeah, you don't really want to be
Yeah,
on any 4-wheel drive on hard pavement. But if you are, you want it on 4-wheel drive high. And if there's a full-time or part-time option, you want it on part-time.
oh, kind of like what Forerunners do, where it's like part
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, my Jeep has a full-time and part-time as well.
Oh, okay. Damn.
But yeah, so your wedding's going to be interesting whenever you have one, because you're going to, if you plan on having one, because your whole wedding is going to be like planned with the notion of like, this whole thing is just a social contract.
Well, here's the thing. I've worked one wedding out in Napa where I thought it was really cool because a lot of people like big weddings where it's like, okay, a big wedding for me is any wedding over 80 people. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot because there's a lot of 300, 400 people weddings out there
Right.
all the time. It's so normal. But if you ever seen 50 people in a room, it's a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anything over 80 is a big wedding to me. But I worked this wedding out in Napa where it was like a 30-person wedding total. Like, so that's including the guests and the bridal party and whatnot. And what was cool about it was, one, you get to save a little bit money on a smaller venue, but it's more well decorated and well lit. Like there was Edison bulb, like tungsten bulbs everywhere. I was like,
That's
dude,
nice.
this is dope. And you know how like there's at big weddings there's typically like the best man speech and the maid of honor speech.
Mhm.
Well, since there was only 30 people at this wedding, they went around and everybody said something, and I was like,
that's
wow,
really cool.
I know. I was like, dude, that's so cool. Everybody shared like a cool memory and like how they connected with the bride and groom at one point in their life, and they shared a story.
Well, yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're a 30-person max, if you're invited to that wedding, you have a very close connection with them,
Exactly.
and you probably have some really good stories to tell.
Exactly. And like, just as a videographer, just working it, and I was so engaged. I was like, oh, I want to hear that person's story now. Like, it was so cool.
Isn't it weird how when you work weddings, you weirdly get engaged into other people's weddings who normally you would have just had no engagement with them whatsoever, but
Yeah.
you start like listening to the speeches, and you start like laughing with them, be like, oh, that's so Dan. Like, even though you just met Dan that day.
Classic Dan being Dan again.
Hey, remember that one time when Dan did that one thing in that story? Yeah, me too. But you get weirdly engaged when you like. I did a wedding not too long ago, and I realize I'm talking about a lot of weddings I did when I say I don't do weddings. I don't do weddings. Don't hire me for your wedding. I don't do weddings. But I did this wedding not too long ago, and I knew the people, but it's like I didn't know them well enough to where if I wasn't working the wedding, I would have been invited. I definitely would not have been invited to this wedding if I wasn't working it. That's the only reason why I was there. But like every time I hear about the wedding, I get a sense of pride. Like, oh yeah, I was at that wedding. Like I get a sense of pride. Like even though like I wasn't invited, I was being paid to be there.
Oh man. You're like, oh, you weren't invited to that wedding? I mean, I was there.
They paid me to be there.
Yeah.
But it was that's weird. Like after being involved in so many different weddings, whether being in the wedding party or working the wedding, or helping plan the wedding or whatever, like like my wedding, whenever I do have one, better be flawless because I have a lot of experience.
No, dude, that's exactly what I'm saying too. Like, for example, like I don't know, like I want to edit my own wedding video, but at the same time, I want to have like 6 shooters there. It's like getting different angles and like when I'm mic'd up, I need to have 2 sources of audio mic'd up to me alone. Like like I need backup audio, okay? You know what you know what I mean?
Dang.
Like it needs to be a production. Like I want my own light. Like a lot of times wedding ceremonies you notice are in the middle of the afternoon. And that just looks that was like terrible lighting, right? You already know, right? There's shadows under your nose, under your eyes. I need a bounce light out there or something. or we need like a giant diffusion panel, right? Just diffusing that sunlight, make everything look soft.
Well, I think where a lot of wedding photographers, not, and this specifically applies to them, but they need to like have a space that's indoors where they can set up all their own lighting for all the wedding photos. And that gets really like hard to actually plan because a lot of people, they're like, okay, and we want our photos taken outside next to this waterfall or next to this thing. And when it's in the middle of the afternoon, like that is always terrible because for some reason it's always a spot where the sun's in your eyes, and then you have people smiling like this or like with their eyes closed or like that because they like the sun is in their eyes and they cannot open their eyes, and they usually the photos like don't turn out all that great. But if you had your wedding photos inside somewhere with like controlled lighting and like a beautiful backdrop, like with like maybe like string lights behind it, like some like plants or something on the sides, you could actually have like pristine staged wedding photos.
Yeah, well, photographers lead that industry, really. I mean, like, look, like you can meet a wedding photographer and they'll get paid like what, maybe 5 to 10 grand for one wedding day, and they brought a backpack.
Yeah,
that's it. And then you see like the wedding videographers, we got 3 to 4 people with us. One of them's running audio. We're setting up lights. We're bringing like 2 grip cars because we have lights and light stands and things like that. And our projects are like what? Maybe if they got a low package, maybe $4,000, 3.
Yeah.
So, but so photographers really lead the wedding industry. But in contrast, when it comes to video production, we lead the commercial industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like cool. You guys could have your $10,000 wedding packages. It's like we'll have our $5,000 commercial videos, but that client wants us to do one every month for the next year.
And the videos end up being like 30 seconds long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I recently, this is the only job I've gotten since Shelter in Place started, but I made or my company was contracted to make a bunch of 30-second clips of a film series that I did some work on, and so I already had all the footage. But my company was contracted to make 18 30-second clips. And it was relatively easy. I subbed that out. I got hired when I was doing something, and so I subbed half of it out and I did the other half myself. But yeah, it was all just finding where would be a good 30-second clip and then just cutting that out and exporting it. But that little things like that can bring in a ton of money for like promotional clips and stuff, especially if you know a bit about marketing and advertisements. Then you can charge even more because you just tell me the kind of thing you want and I'll make it happen. You can make a lot more with potentially a very small amount of work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's the quantity, where quantity meets quality really does come into play, especially with how the internet is set up nowadays and how fast media is being consumed. It's like if a client comes up to you, it's like, hey, I want like a 30-second like marketing video for my company because I want to increase sales. It's like, well, no, I'm not going to do that for you because good luck on thinking one video is going to really help you meet your goals. And that's what I really try to do when I'm like when I'm meeting with clients. I'm not like at a point where I'm trying to convince them to work with me. I'm trying to let them know like, hey, we need to know if they were going to be a right fit, because one video doesn't work nowadays.
Yeah.
Like even there's no I don't believe there's such things as viral videos anymore. I personally don't believe it. So the thing is like, let's say what's a viral video, like someone
Charlie bit my finger.
Charlie bit my finger. Okay, yeah, right, exactly. So that was the start of YouTube. We're talking 2006, right? But then you see somebody like I don't know if you're familiar with like David Dobrik. Are you familiar with him?
No,
he's like a vlogger. So he's like an LA vlogger. He's just a comedic vlogger, and the thing is like he'll get like 1 million views like on like a single video. But a lot of people don't know this guy's been doing videos since like he was in high school, since his teenage years. So a lot of these guys have been doing it for a long time. Like the band, the band Fun, right?
Yeah,
they did We Are Young. Yeah, so like I'd say back in 2011 they were really big, right? They were really popping. They're on every radio station. But a lot of people don't know they've been a band for like 25 years before that.
Oh,
like,
interesting. I didn't know.
So it's like they didn't just go viral out of nowhere. They've been doing this for a long ass time.
Well, you see that with every musician pretty much. Everyone who's a master of their industry and very well known. I mean, Linus Tech Tips has been around for over 10 years. But they didn't get super popular until the past like few years. MKBHD. Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah. Marcus Brownlee.
Yeah. He's been YouTubing for over 10 years also. And he has interviews with Bill Gates and Elon Musk and stuff. But, he's been doing this for like over 10 years. Deadmau5 has been around for way longer than 10 years. And, he didn't win. I think he won a Grammy in like 2008, I think, for Ghosts and stuff. But he was around, making music for like 10, 20 years before that. And so that's always that was always a very interesting thing about viral videos for me was, it's like a video will get posted to the internet. One person will share it and then it'll spread like wildfire. But, makers of trade and entertainment, before they're well known, they're around for years and years and years and years. And who knows, maybe if 10 years, if I'm still doing podcasts, I'll be the next Joe Rogan.
I would love to see that.
Companies that are popular now, like media companies, entertainment stuff, they've been around for so long, like Linus and MKBHD and even musicians like what you said with Fun, they've been a band for over 10 years. So explain a little bit why you say viral videos will no longer be a thing.
I think it's everybody wants to have a human connection. That really is the biggest thing today, especially when it comes to the internet, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, in order to get that human connection, you really gotta. It's all about quantity and the content. Like the thing is, like if I pay a few filmmakers to help me produce my vlog for one day, like I can't expect something like that to get like 1 million views or even like a lot of views, really. It really is important to just have a consistent publishing schedule for your content, just so people can really expect your content and who you are, and just get to know you a little bit better. I don't think there's, how would I say this? There's no such thing as an overnight success. It just doesn't happen.
I feel like there's a few in the rap industry. Or like, for instance, Marshmello, total overnight success, but not really, but he was. So Marshmello allegedly was this producer called .com before he was Marshmello.
Yep, because of the leg tattoo.
Yeah, it's never been confirmed, but it's confirmed. We all know. But his music career was not working out as .com. and then he decided to just completely flip it up and change it. And he, as Deadmau5 said, .com wasn't working out, so you put a bucket on your head and start making kid festival music. um, but you know, that's probably the closest thing to an overnight success, except he already knew the industry, he knew the people, he was good friends with Skrillex, and he had the label, the publishing, the funding. He had everything to get going right off the bat. And it's kind of like it's a similar story with Billie Eilish, how she just kind of one
Oh
day
yeah.
no one knew who she was. The next day she performed at Coachella and then blew up. And that was literally because she was thrown into so many paid interviews, like where her parents and some of her people helping her get out there was just like nailing her with interviews and interviews after an album came out, like one after the other, almost forcing people to start to know who she was. And that's when she got a call to play at Coachella. I'm not trying to talk smack about her. I personally love her. She's great. I actually really like her music, and she seems to have a very like quirky, like kind of cool personality. I think she's great. But I'm saying, if she didn't have dedicated people behind her pushing her into interviews and stuff, uh, probably wouldn't have blown up, as much as she did, or at least as quickly as she did. Because if you remember, nobody knew who she was, not a single person. And then
Yeah.
she played Coachella, and then now she's huge. Now everyone knows who she is. And so those two are kind of, and I really don't think she was making music professionally for that long before she played Coachella. I think it was like a few years, if that, which a few years, with how long it takes most musicians, a few years could be classified as overnight success.
Yeah, I guess I think I would agree with that one because I mean she's so young. I mean I don't
Yeah.
know any, like, even like when she first started her career, I don't know any 15-year-olds that know how to work an entire mastering studio and
Well, yeah. I mean, you had that Catch Me Outside girl who she got famous because she went on Dr. Phil, and then she's like, I'm going to capitalize this following that I have, started making
Mhm.
music.
Yeah. But
But you have
are
her.
you familiar? Are you familiar with the artist Porter Robinson?
Yeah.
See, that's another where it's like not definitely far from an overnight success because he was on one of those way back when he was one of those guys who was making music and posting it on Tumblr for all of us anime lovers. so he was essentially making EDM, but it was like it had like an anime like spice to it,
And back
and it was
then,
just
EDM
yeah
was not the thing. Like
no
it's almost annoying. So when I say this, I mean like DJing. Not so much DJing, actually. I take that back. I think anyone who wants to DJ should DJ, and because it's just fun. It's just a fun thing to do. Like every party is more lit with an actual DJ.
hmm
Like every like house party and stuff. But a lot of people like they buy a MacBook Pro and then suddenly they're a music producer. Uh, and that doesn't bug me a lot because um, I've been a musician pretty much my entire life. And then when I got my hands on some music making software, I started making stuff. It's the entitlement that comes with it. I hate the entitlement. Like your first piece of work that you put out is going to be garbage. 90% of the time, your first piece of work is pretty much garbage. And I have a rule that even applied to me. You suck for a year when you make music. You have 1 year where you suck. And that is totally okay because every producer does it. You have a year where you're figuring out your sound, you're figuring out what sounds work well with others, you're figuring out audio production, you're figuring all this stuff out, and you don't know until you try it. You don't know. And so my 1 year, I just put some stuff up on SoundCloud just to kind of get like feedback, but I didn't open up my label and start posting to Spotify till like a couple years later because I knew my stuff was bad. But it's if you want to get into making music, do it. It's the easiest it's ever been right now. Actually, right at this specific time during this coronavirus, it is easiest because like Logic is free for like 90 days, Ableton is free for like 90 days. All these like major platforms are free for a really long time because a bunch of people are at home, and because of that they can just get it and start making music. And like I
And
think
Adobe Creative Cloud is free for 2 months.
is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I pay for that.
No, me too.
But I have a student discount, which is great. But it's when you make music, you have to understand that most likely your first piece of work is going to be really bad. And let's say you're lucky and musically it's great because you're a great musician. Your audio processing and your sound production is going to be terrible because you don't know what you're doing yet. I spent years working on audio production and getting the right gear, the right speakers. My speakers brand new are $1,000 for the piece or for the pair. It's I have actual compressors and I know how to use them, and I have limiters and I know how to use that, and I know how to shape a synth to make it sound presentable and all this stuff. I spent years working on all that type of stuff. Even when I took a break from making music for a few years, like I was still studying audio production and audio processing and how to sculpt your audio to be great and sound great on Apple headphones and car speakers and studio speakers and even concert speakers. I spent years doing this, and so now a lot of people are putting out music and they're just like, it's great, give me attention, and just like, dude, your music is garbage and you know it. And the only people who listening to this who should be mad are the ones getting offended. If you're not getting offended, this doesn't apply to you. If you're offended right now, this applies to you. but and it's very similar with a lot of other trades. If you start photography, your first photo is not going to be great. It may like look good on the surface, but any professional photographer is going to look at it and be like, "Hey, that's garbage, bro." Same with I've made one short film in my day by myself where I directed it, I acted in it, and everything. And that film will never see the light of day because it's horrible. It's my first film. It sucks.
Oh man. Well, I want to say this. I cannot move forward in our friendship until I see that film.
Oh my gosh. It's really bad. I'll show you. It's really bad though. The only reason why any part of it is powerful or good at all is because of the score that's behind it, which isn't even mine. I used a classical album that Deadmau5 produced. It's like a full symphony. It's classical, and I only used his tracks because I knew I wasn't going to post it anywhere, and so I wouldn't get any copyright claims or anything. It was kind of, once I got done editing it, I was just like, yeah, this is just for me. This is not going to be out anywhere. But that's the only thing that carries the whole thing is the score. I'll show you.
Man.
I'm just warning you. It was made years ago, and the whole thing is garbage. It's really bad.
I promise I won't even do as little as smirk while watching it. I will watch it.
You can laugh. It's okay. It's a film. Actually, the concept is great. I still love the concept of the film. It's called Inside the Mind of Schizophrenia, and it's about a person, and the whole thing is meant to be a one location, one person type of thing. So everything happens right then and there, and it's one person, one actor, and everything. But it's basically showing someone and kind of flashing to what's going on in his head and the different personalities and the different moods, and then The film ends because remember he's a schizophrenic. The film ends by him seeing himself walk up to him, and the person says, "Come with me," and then he walks away into darkness with that person, and that shows that he's fully succumbed to the schizophrenia and he's no longer himself. He's a symptom of what's inside of his head. And so the concept of the film is super like gritty, it's super dark, and it's really fascinating, and I love the concept of the film. Everything about it though, besides that, the concept and the score are just terrible.
Mm.
And no one listening to this, no one steal my idea. That's mine. Trademark. I have the receipts to prove it. but like that was my first film that I ever made, and it's garbage, and I know it's garbage. And so normally your first piece of work, that with a lot of things too. The first time I made coffee, it tastes horrible. The first time I drove, I was a terrible driver. The first thing I built out of wood, like and a drill and like a saw, was I can actually remember it. It was a shelf, and it was horrible. It looked like a piece of crap. But nowadays, to sum up the whole reason why I'm saying this, nowadays I feel like the entitlement with some of these newbies into industries is just insane. You get these photographers who they think because their subject is beautiful that their photography is beautiful, and that's just not the case. And normally the subject is a woman and it's a model, and they could be photographing a very beautiful model in a very seductive pose or whatever it may be, but dude, no, you're just a perv with a DSLR.
I can never get into like anything like that, man. I just because here's the thing. I've had I have had models reach out to me like on Instagram where like, oh yeah, I want to do a video shoot and blah 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 and things like that. And I'm not really into it because I would rather work with actual actors and not models, because it's just like it's easier. It'll be better to direct, right? Because then what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna pan around you with my gimbal while you do a pose with the wind blowing. It's like it's not really my thing. Not bashing on any fashion filmmakers out there, but I like I said earlier, I'm very goal oriented, so I would want to create something where I'm helping any viewer meet their goals, whether it's being entertained or educated, right? So like if it's like a commercial, the goal is to educate you on what the product is, right, and help sell it. So, but yeah,
congrats on good job on keeping this conversation PG. It's been challenging for me because there's a whole lot of different routes that conversation could go.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of ways to achieve the goal of the viewer, with a lot of different. Anyways,
yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing. It's like with what you said, it's like you're not bashing it. It's just not your thing, and that's totally fine. Like, I've done a few photo shoots with some models. And the only one that, looking back, was like really worth my time. There is one studio shoot that was like worth my time that actually turned out amazing. And there's one outdoor shoot where we were in the Alum Rock County Park up there, kind of near your area ish.
Yeah, I live right there. Yeah. Alum Rock Park is like right there.
Yeah, and I did a photo shoot up there, and those are the only two photo shoots that were like worth my time. I've done a few, and if there's no art in it, then I just don't feel like it's worth it. Because I don't want to be like that photographer who like, oh, I just take pictures of models or something. It's like I want to be if I ever do really get into photography, I want it to be like, this man is an artist, not just a photographer, because that's what I try and do with everything. I make my own music. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do it a lot. And I have like my sound, and I have like my art, and I love it, and no one really matches my sound because it's very unique. Same thing with my film editing style. I have a very specific kind of style for film editing, and that's what gets me my clients. It's because they're not just hiring me for editing; they're hiring me to get my style on it as well.
Yeah, so I think overall, stop being so damn entitled. Just because the equipment is so accessible in everything nowadays, like it doesn't make you entitled to a certain price point, okay? And
Yeah.
and the amount of time that you are in any industry or craft does not equal the quality of work that you put out.
True.
Because there's some people who have the natural talent and can pick things up, and there's some people who have been in an industry for 10 years and they're not willing to adapt to the constant changing industry that they're in.
Yeah.
It's like, and I see that all the time. I see it so much where people were freelancers, like in videography, for example, just because they have been in the industry doing videography work for another year, they think it's right for them to increase their prices. Well, if people are gonna pay more, they should be getting more from your services.
Yeah.
So whether that be the quality of work that you're doing or the customer experience, that's the way I see it. I don't think anybody should be like, oh, well, I'm experienced, right? Because like, for example, the first time I ever touched a camera was when I was 7 years old. So does that mean I was technically in the industry since I was 7? No, I didn't actually start doing it professionally and started having specific goals towards other brands until 4 years ago. So I say I've been only doing it for 4 years. You know what I mean? So like, for example, like you do a lot of digital video production, right? If you played the flute in 3rd grade, that doesn't you know what I mean? Like well, okay, cool. Doesn't mean you've been doing music for that long. You've been doing whenever you started on Ableton or FL Studio or whatever you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started making music in high school when I got my first piece of software, but I've been a musician since I was in like 6th grade. And so I'm not saying I've been making music since 6th grade. I've been saying, as I said, like I've been making music since high school when I actually started. But even then I took a break for a long time and I just started learning, and I didn't really start, making anything that I saw as professional until probably about 3-4 years ago. Yeah, like 3-4 years ago. So if someone has been asking me how long I've been making music, I'm probably going to say like about 3 or 4 years, because that's when I really started doing it. But you bring up a great point, that you should never, if you're in a creative trade, you should never be entitled to anything. You need to let the quality of your work speak for your entitlement. If you can produce something that is just pure gold, let that speak for itself. Don't say, I've been in the industry for 10 years, so this is why I deserve to be paid this much. You can say so much more with presenting a piece of work that's pure gold than any word that could come out of your mouth at all.
Exactly. I don't think time, or what's the word? Is it tenor? Is that how you say it?
Tenure?
Tenure? Yeah. Has anything to do with the amount of the level of quality, Like, for example, I don't know, I think like AOC, how long has she been in politics, right? And then there's like other politicians who have been in
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, who've been like politicians for like 40 years. I'm like, whoa. That is a long time doing the same job.
And who's doing a better job connecting with their constituents? The one who was bartending 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was just an example. I know you're more into politics, a lot more than me. I'm just oddly attractive to AOC. So
you got to be careful. A few more comments, and you probably won't have a girlfriend after this podcast.
she's awesome. No, she's really cool. She does get a lot of media attention though. She's been getting a lot of that lately.
What do you mean?
I see her like she's like all over Twitter, like all over like Twitter and like in like Facebook videos. Yeah, she does get a lot of bash for being a barista. Huh?
I think I've met her twice. Once or twice. I follow her on Instagram though.
Oh, I was talking about AOC, Tim.
Okay, yeah. That's why I was so confused. I was just like, really? Like, I mean, I don't know a lot about your girlfriend's skill or what she does, but yeah, AOC, yeah, her. Yeah, she was a bartender before she was a congressman, and she gets a lot of crap for that. Sorry, we were talking about two different people. That was hilarious.
I know. Yeah, that I have no idea what all that's about. But yeah. Did
your girlfriend ever model?
I think so. I think so here and there.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely not with my shoots. I'm not a photographer, so
yeah. You can do it though. I know you can.
I'm capable.
I've seen.
I'm capable. Yeah. Yeah, I'm capable of taking photos. I'll say it that much.
Yeah, see, the thing with me is I would probably be a much better photographer if I had more photography technical skill, which is the opposite of most people. When it comes to the creative lens, and I'm not talking about a camera lens, I'm talking about your personal lens. Like, I feel like I have a very great creative lens, and that's why I'm able to take crystal clear, perfect, amazing, gorgeous shots in a controlled studio, where I have controlled lighting, a backdrop, a subject that's controlled. I can take pristine looking great shots in a controlled studio. But if you're to take me outside of a controlled environment, I'm not really all that great. And it's because I don't have the time or the energy to really know the technical ins and outs of, something like this. I can tell you how it all works, but the second you tell me to power it on, and there you go, it's powered on. The second you tell me to power it on and tell me to change the shutter speed and the aperture and the white balance and all of that stuff, it's like you're gonna lose me. I don't have that type of knowledge. Even me and my friend who we split the camera, the last time I picked it up from him, he was just like, hey, if you make a video, I recommend spending an hour playing around with different video settings because I kind of changed a lot of stuff. And I'm like, well, why'd you change it? And he's like, because this is the way you should be, producing videos, with all your own controls. And I'm just like, do I even want to make a video now? It's like I believe that I have the creative lens to be able to do something, but I don't have the technical know-how to be able to achieve what's in my head. Like the vision that's in my head is I think unique and kind of awesome. But the second I try and translate that to equipment, sometimes I fall short. But
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I think you really have you're more of a producer and director mindset where you have the vision and then you communicate that vision to the technical crew. So for example, if you were a director and you told me like, hey, for this scene over here, I need to have a Saving Private Ryan look to it. And then that's the cinematographer's job. It's like, perfect. I know exactly what you mean. You need a contrasty, gritty, slight shift to the green tint on this shot. And that's going to be at 60 frames per second because the movement in that movie is a little bit more choppy. But see, you don't have to worry about that. You worry about the vision. The cinematographer is like, okay, that's the look he wants. That's the vibe he's going for. Let's do it. Let's execute. So, yeah.
And, I work with Kevin on a lot of things. My friend Kevin, who we split the camera. I work with him on a lot of things, and that's why we work together so well. And I'm not bashing him when I say this, because he'll be the first one to admit this. He has a ridiculous amount of technical know-how and technical knowledge, and I have a lot of creativity but not a lot of technical knowledge, and sometimes he's more technical than creative. And so me and him, we work really well together, because he's like, hey, what should this look like? And I give a vibe. I'm like, hey, it should have this type of vibe. And then he's like, okay, I know what that translates to in technical terms. And so then he can do it if I tell him what to do. That's why me and him work together so well on a lot of things. Just because we both kind of bring in the different side. Now, do I wish I had more technical skill? Absolutely. I really wish I did. Because it's sometimes it's almost frustrating just having like this vision in my head of exactly what I want and not be able to reproduce that.
Yeah, I think you know how I said earlier, I mentioned, hey, if you're going into like a creative industry, focus on your strengths and then hire out for your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But that I think that is the one exception. If you do choose to try to strengthen any of your weaknesses, do it do it with someone, right? Because
Yeah.
it makes the learning process a lot funner, you know? It's like, for example, like me, like I would, if we were in a crowded street and we're going to shoot a scene and I'm like, dude, I have no idea how to set up the audio because it's going to pick up all of this noise in the background. Like I would talk to you or Kevin and be like, well, I don't know how to do it. I want to learn, but I'm not going to go on YouTube and watch a bunch of videos. I want to I'm going to at least make this process fun.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to teach me. I'm not going to go on YouTube. Yeah.
I've had a couple friends do that with me, but for competitive driving.
Competitive what?
Competitive driving.
Like racing?
Yeah. It's MJ. It's called competitive driving.
Oh, we shouldn't. Oh, okay.
Not called racing.
No, we don't race. That's illegal.
Don't race. We competitive drive.
Okay.
But they know I have a very defined skill in competitive driving, and they are not going to try that out on their own, because the risks are quite a bit higher with that. And so I've done that a few times where people called me, be like, hey man, like teach me how to drive this course or teach me how to drive this, like, and I'm like, all right, don't kill me. Do you have any upcoming projects that are
any upcoming
cool?
projects? You know, right now I'm really trying to, so my goal for this year, obviously a lot of these things have been pushed forward or pushed back on, but yeah, my goal for this year was to really just do a lot more spec commercials, you know. And for anybody listening who doesn't know what a spec commercial is, it really is just doing like a mock-up or like a fake commercial of a brand or a company that you love. Simply because a lot of us videographers or commercial directors, we have our dream client, right? You know, you hear someone say, oh man, my dream client is I want to do a Nike commercial or I want to do a Vans commercial. But the truth is, if Vans came up to you, calls you up tomorrow morning and be like, hey, I need you to direct a commercial for us. Are you ready? You wouldn't be ready, right? Because it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that is what my goal is this year, to work on a lot more spec commercials where if the opportunity does come up, I'm ready. I'm prepared. Like, dude, I've put in the time, work, and money to do a full scale commercial. Like, let's go ahead and do this. Because here's the thing, the one thing that stumps a lot of creative people is you're willing to spend thousands of dollars on equipment, but you're not willing to spend thousands of dollars on a production or on the education of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that make sense? Like, I'm willing to spend thousands of dollars on camera, but I can't spend a few $100s on getting the right actors for my script. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. Or in my case, I'm willing to spend a bunch of money on cameras and camera gear, but I'm not willing to spend the time watching that masterclass that will take 3 hours to learn how to use it. That's my case.
Didn't Dead Mouse have a masterclass?
He did. I've watched it 10 times.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. And you know, that's another thing that kind of kills me with some of these new music producers is like, in my opinion, there's 2 master classes that any successful or any music producer who wants to be successful should watch, and that's Dead Mouse's masterclass and Armin van Buuren's masterclass. Dead Mouse is going to give you the technical know-how on how to do it, and Armin van Buuren's going to give you more of the creative know-how on how to have your ideas flow. I've seen both of those. I've watched Armin's probably just once, I think, but I've watched Dead Mouse's like 10 times. Also, I love Dead Mouse, and I will watch any interview, talk show, video, masterclass, anything that he's in, because he's just such an interesting person.
Yeah.
You know, setting aside all his skills, he lives in a castle. It's a modern day castle. It literally looks like a castle. And what he does for fun is sometimes he has old drones and he flies them into the air and he shoots them out of the sky with a pellet gun. That's what he does for fun. He also owns a farm on his castle called Epic Farm. And he has a cat named Meowingtons who's almost as famous as he is.
Doesn't he have like that weird looking Lamborghini? It's like wrapped in.
It's a Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Ferrari actually got very upset at him for that.
Because it was originally they didn't want him to mess with the paint, right?
Yeah, and he did it. It was the Ferrari, and it had the Nyan cat. The
little rainbow cat thing.
Yeah. They got pretty mad at him for that, which is pretty funny. You know what's funny is his wife. She's known in the music industry as Grill Zimmerman. Kind of like Girl, except Grill. That's what she's known as. Like even her Instagram name is Grill. The last Dead Mouse concert I was at, I went up to her and she was in the crowd and I recognized her and I went out and I was just like, hey girl, how's it going? And she's like, oh, hi. And then we talked about, okay, I have the opportunity to talk to Dead Mouse's wife. Could ask her anything, like, how's the castle? Like, what's Dead Mouse really like in person? We spent the entire time talking about cats. I'm not joking. We talked about Meowingtons and the other cats.
Oh, wow.
And we got a picture. She was super nice. Like she, you know how like sometimes it looks like celebrities really don't want to be taking the picture, but they do it. Like she was like genuinely happy to take the picture, or at least that's what. If she wasn't, she's a very, very good actor. But it really looked like it. It's funny. I was just like, I mainly follow you so I can keep up with the cats. That's what I told her. It was pretty hilarious.
Oh man.
But anyways, yeah. Any other cool little projects you have going on? Like a lot of my projects were put on hold and until further notice. Pretty much all of them, actually.
No, man. I mean, I think reality towards the end of the year, I'm hoping to get some kind of SUV, but like I told you earlier, I was looking. I really like these Tacomas. And it's for like the dumbest reason too. You'd be most people would be like, oh yeah, I get it. You want a Tacoma so you could haul around all of your equipment and stuff or video stuff. Like the reality is, I want a mobile barbecue, man. Like literally, like I'd be like, hey Tim, what are you doing today? Perfect. Let's go to the beach. I'm gonna park my truck on the beach, set up the grill and the bed. I'm just gonna barbecue, man.
That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Right?
See, for me, I will always have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, even if I barely drive it, and it's because like my cousin lives out on the countryside. Like, I love the country life, even though I live in the city. My goal in the next 10 years is to live on a ranch. I want to get out of the city, and I want to be on a ranch.
Do you like Hollister? Do you like that area?
I don't know if I'd live in Hollister unless I had a ton of property. Like I definitely wouldn't live in the neighborhoods there. Not, I don't know it too well enough, but if I'm gonna live in a neighborhood, I'm gonna live in Milpitas. Because when it comes to community and neighborhoods and cities, in my opinion, there's nothing better than where I'm already at. Shout out to my Milpitas homies. But I personally love where I live right now. But the only thing that would be better is if I could live on a ranch. Now, if I could live on a ranch in Milpitas, that would be perfect. But there are not many ranches in Milpitas. And so I don't see that as a reality anytime soon.
That's like towards the Calaveras Hills.
Yeah. Yeah. If I could secure a spot, like secure a ranch up in the Calaveras Hills, but it's still in Milpitas, perfect. I would love it. But anyways, we've been talking for over an hour now, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And to correct you, it's actually my timestamp here says an hour and 59 minutes. So.
Oh wow. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeesh. I don't. I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't watching the time. We just talked forever.
Okay, well, before we cut out, I just want to say one last thing to your viewers, just to kind of wrap up everything that we've talked about.
Yes.
Nobody owes you anything, and invest in yourself and keep working on your craft, and don't be afraid to network with other people. For example, if you are a aspiring like music or audio producer, and you think you're going to be the next deadmau5 in the world, but you're afraid to reach out to somebody local to you, like you're never going to make it, right? You got to be able to feel free to network with people, right? If I started music production right now, on top of trying to learn the software and whatnot and all of the techniques, I would also reach out to anyone local. I would email or DM Tim Alcorn and be like, "Hey Tim, I'm a noob, and I love your work. I see what you're doing. If you're open to it, I would love to work with you. Maybe you could show me some ropes, and I think it'd be cool if we hung out. Everybody wants to be the next Steven Spielberg, but they're afraid to DM someone on Instagram. How does that make sense? Right?
Yeah, I could not have said that better myself. Yeah, but mostly like the first part, no one owes you anything. You're not entitled to anything. You have to work for it. I've learned that. It's been some creative, painstaking years, not months, not days, years of just painstakingly slaving away at work that has just you told me something like 2 years ago or something, because remember, weirdly enough, I've known you for years. Like years and years. I met you because I was it's because I dated someone who had a cousin who had a friend, and you were that person's friend. That's how I know you, through a really weird series of events. Our mutual friend, I only know him because he was a family friend of a family that I was dating someone in that family. And so I know you. But anyways, one thing you told me years ago was gonna do, it was something, I think we were texting, and you're just like, I'm just here again spending hours on a project that no one will see. And that's because that's the reality of starting up in something like this, and that's the reality of things that happen. I've produced 3 music videos that no one will ever see.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a curveball.
Yeah. No one even knows about them. I used one music video I made to get a different video editing gig of something that I was also doing for free. I just wanted the experience. But yeah, I've made 3 music videos that no one will ever see. And one of them, I think I even lost the project files on, so I never exported it, and I won't even ever see it again.
Oh.
It's okay. It's okay. That one does not need to be revisited. But it takes years of painstaking work to get anywhere. And it also takes supportive friends. If you have a friend who has a small business or has a creative project, and you call them a good friend, it is your obligation to share it, to purchase it, to listen to it, to watch it, to whatever. It is, if you call them a good friend, it is your obligation to do something like that. It's not a
at
choice.
Full price.
Yeah, at full price. You don't ask for it. If you have a friend who makes jackets and they're selling their jackets for $60 a jacket, from me, they're getting $60 for their jacket. I'm not gonna ask for a homie hookup or hey, just give me one for free and I'll wear it around everywhere. And like, no, I'm not doing that. Like you put your time in it. You're laughing.
Yeah.
That's a serious thing.
No, I know exactly what you mean because it's like okay, like somebody who offers like, oh well, I'll wear it everywhere I go. It's like, what are you, like an influencer now? Come on, man.
Yeah, seriously. But like even my cousin, who wanted to hire me to do a wedding video, they tried so hard to pay me, because they knew I didn't accept payment because it was something out of my comfort zone. But even my own cousin, tried to pay me for doing work, that kind of work for him. Like if you have a creative friend who's putting out work and you call them a good friend, it is your obligation to support it, whatever it is. And if you don't support what they're doing and you're not buying, or at least if you can't buy what they're doing, at least share it. If you don't do that, then maybe you're not as good of a friend as you thought you were. Maybe you're just kind of a crappy friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that because why sharing something is not that hard.
You
like
click 2 buttons.
Yeah, but in one of my podcast episodes, I actually told someone that when you're first starting out in anything, when you're striving to be different or do something different, your first haters are your own insecure friends and family. That's just what it is. Because people, I don't know, man. People get. It's just, I don't know. It's like, look, there's a system. There's a system of things, right? Where it's just like, okay, well, everybody will celebrate and like and reshare someone who got a new job, right? Somebody posts on LinkedIn, hey, I got a new job. Everybody likes it. Congrats, man. Congrats. But nobody ever celebrates, hey, I just started a business. I just started a brand. Those get a lot less attention. But it's like, which doesn't make sense to me because wait, I started a business. This is a product that I created on my own. Nobody else made this. This was all me. Why doesn't anybody support me?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now you know what's frustrating for us creative people.
Yeah, I sure do.
I posted something on Snapchat not too long ago, and it was a joke, but with one of those jokes that has a little bit of truth. I was just like, if you're not watching my podcast, that means you don't love me and you actually hate me. Sorry. And it was a total joke. It was a total joke. It was just like, I like to remind my friends, like, because honestly, that's more of a joke because a lot of the guests I have on my podcast, like probably it's been like, I have 2 posted up right now and they're both political people, and politics just doesn't interest everyone. And some people actively try and stay away from politics. And so if you're a friend of mine and you're not watching my podcast, it's okay. I completely understand. But why aren't you listening to my music?
No, yeah. See? Good point.
Okay. We should definitely close out because this has been over 2 hours.
All right.
You want to plug your social media and podcast real quick?
Yeah, sure. Anybody who's listening, if you're interested in hearing my podcast, it is called the Creative Crucible Podcast, where I bring on guests, and these guests are not just ordinary people. They are freelancers and small business owners in the San Francisco Bay Area. So if that's something you're interested in listening to, if you're a freelancer or a small business owner and you want to hear the obstacles anyone else, just like you. See, Tim, I would love to have you on the podcast. Yeah, just go and tune in. It's on Apple Music and Spotify, and there's also a visual format on YouTube. And if you want to see some of my work, you can go on Instagram, which is mjvallejo_, or my actual website, which is vallejocinema.com.
There you go. I'll have the links up here or in the description, or I'll have a card to his YouTube channel up here. I'll have something. All right. Well, thank you for being on the Pod Local podcast. It was great having you. I want to be on your podcast next. And this will probably not be the last time that you're on my podcast. I hope to have you back real soon. Hopefully in person.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Take it easy.